way, I know you've probably heard this morning there, in terms of lean, what is lean? Very basic level, it's about identifying waste in your factory, in your back office, anywhere along your supply chain, teaching your people how to use specific tools and techniques and get them to drive waste out. You know, why should I change? There are people here probably who are involved in the journey and people who are about to start. Why should I change? Obviously, the old adage of quality, cost and time. You know, you're putting resources into your business, you want to get the most out of it. That's money. You've got to sustain quality when you're going through the change process. We're all time bound. That's the answer to our business. So, what is a framework? What is a lean roadmap? Well, most people who begin the journey of improvement normally don't have a lean roadmap. What they would have is some sort of organisational structure. And that can be good enough for a period of time in your business, but then what we find is that we start to develop our structures narrow and vertical. So in terms of improvement, we find our teams are excellent in our functional silos. So what you don't have then is you don't have that cross-pollination across business functions. And the challenge is that when you look at your product and service doesn't run up and down your business, it runs left to right. Okay? So how do I get, maybe man's showing there, how do I get people to think left to right in the business, where your value flows, as opposed to up and down in terms of silos? So an org chart gets you so far. What will get you further is systems. Systems are a framework for improvement. If you don't have business systems, you can't improve. And what I'm basically showing there is just 3 high-level systems, core systems. So whether you're in a service environment or a manufacturing environment, you take raw material, you take information, and you transform and transact it into finished goods or material. And that's really what the core systems is about. Demand, planning, logistics, and capacity. Then supporting that, you have your enabling systems, your HR, your IT, and your finance. And then I guess you want to verify that you're giving your customer what they want, which is governance. So at a very high level, that's what you need in your business. It's a framework. Okay. But it only gets you so far. Okay. Where they integrate, you get customer value, which is a good thing. And in terms of the lean roadmap comes along, takes the systems in your business, okay, and positions them within the lean roadmap. So now we're starting to put some sort of structure in terms of improvement. What you see in front is a typical A to Z of a roadmap. It's not an eye test, so don't expect you to read it. But basically you're looking at it in terms of almost like a plan, do, check, act. On the left hand side you have your policy, your structure, your resource. And then as you move left to right, you're prioritising your projects, you're building your capability. And really at the far end there, in terms of maturity, you're extending your value stream beyond where you started. Okay? So you're getting ideas from your factory floor, from your service department, your leadership are driving it out into the value stream. So in terms of a roadmap, in terms of improvement, yeah, that's quite complicated. If I was to take that and share that with your management team, with your people in your organisation, you may find they're all scratching their heads going, how do we put this thing in operation? And really that's what the wee man's trying to, how do I visualise this? Or how do I make a fist out of this? So you could do it that way there. There's a typical lean house. Okay? Some people may have seen the same now. On top of it, you've got your roof, keeping you dry as your continuous improvement. In green there, it's a foundation of standardisation. It's an old cliche. Without standards, there can't be continuous improvement. And then underneath, there's philosophies. So you have a focus on your customer, so customer first. You have a focus on the business, which is elimination of waste. And then you have respect for humanity, which is what William was talking about, people. If you don't have these, you don't have a balanced system. You will make initial improvements, but you won't sustain it. And that's really what I'm showing there on the right hand side, is that if you're focused on the elimination of waste and absolutely looking at your customer first, your people, you will struggle to sustain your gains. Okay. So what is it that everybody gets enthusiastic about? It's the high aspect of lean. The typical there are some tools and techniques. So 5S, you will do 5S. You go do standardisation, you go do value stream mapping, and everybody gets excited with the tools and techniques, and you get this initial energy boost, almost like a sugar rush. The problem is that you normally go after your quick wins because you're wanting to embed a new philosophy, you're looking to change behaviour. You get them, and then people go, what's next? They start to go into the more difficult stuff. As you go into the more difficult stuff, then it starts to challenge just purely the how. So what you're left with, maybe after about 6 months, is you've got your lean champion here, her or him. Everybody's looking after. We started off brilliant in our journey. After 6 months, what are we challenging here? And you've got all these people in the business looking at the lean champion, and the lean champion starts to ask questions. Why don't they behave like me? lean sample starts to ask questions like, why do they behave differently? So from tools and techniques, suddenly we start talking about people. We have to start thinking about people. Okay? Cliche, I don't want your hands when you come into my business. Okay? I want your head, which is fine. Hands and head gives me capability. But within a lean environment, I need your heart. Hands, head and heart. So there needs to be mutual trust, respect there. There needs to be some level of expectations and engagement. Top right hand side, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, for those who know it. And there needs to be a balance between the company and the individual. If you want me to improve and challenge the business and go beyond that extra mile, I need to have some level of hardness. So, what's the combination of that? The combination of that is learning to see. Okay, it's a simple cartoon in there. Don't care about the optimists, we don't care about the pessimists. What we're interested in is people looking around and seeing waste day in, day out. But they don't, because they're in this quagmire. This is the way we've done things around here. Whereas the guy on the right hand side there, he says, why is the glass twice as big as it is? Try not to complicate the diagram here, but just on the left hand side, this is what we call the whirlwind effect. You're using your tools and techniques, you're getting small gains, but you get caught in this cycle. In terms of plateau in your performance, it just plateaus. Because people know how to apply the tools, they know how to apply the tools. Okay. The problem is they don't know why they apply the tools, and that's what the right hand side is doing. It's pushing your performance up. Why am I applying the tools? When we start to talk about principles, we start to talk about key behaviour indicators, we start to talk about people. So, I mentioned their principle. I talked previously about systems. Principle would be part of our lean roadmap. So what's a principle? So irrespective of whether you're the managing director of the company, or you're on the shop floor, or you're transacting in the back office, what's the principle that's in motion here? Anybody? What principle? Gravity. Okay. Irrespective of who you are, the wee man on the left hand side is falling. So whether you're the managing director of the company, or you're on the shop floor in the office, you fall. Okay. So I know the behaviour of that person. So principle is a truth, it's a knowing. If you have principles in your business, then the expectation is people have the right behaviour. And that's what that's trying to show. If you haven't got principles in your business, how do you expect people to have the right behaviour in terms of lean thinking? Some people in here may have gone through the whole mission, vision and values. So you may be saying to yourself here, well, is that not a value? Okay, I'll challenge that. Simple picture up at the top, Conor Murray throwing the rugby ball into an Irish scrum. It's a unified effort. Okay? All 8 guys in the scrum are pushing in one direction, hopefully pushing another team backwards, and Conor throws the ball in. So from a value perspective, teamwork is what we see in there, and that's positive. The challenge is that teamwork can be subjective. Okay? It governs how you see the world. Bottom right hand corner you have 4 bank robbers. Their teamwork could be excellent. They could be excellent bank robbers, and the processes and the procedures they use give them an excellent result. But in terms of behaviour, it may not be the right behaviour in the world where we work. So, if we want the right behaviour, values are okay, but principles drive the right behaviour. So we've got systems, we've got principles. Let's see if we can connect them together. So in the top one there, I'm just showing a very basic business principle, and it relates to the flow of value across your business. Make value flow. Does value flow in your business, or does it stop and does it start? Does it sit around for a long time? Does it consume resources? Okay, so that's a principle. If you don't have that in the principle in your business, you may not drive the right behaviour. How do you align with the principle? We look for a system. So I'll talk to you about the core system there, the transformation, the transaction of material. So you try to link that principle to your system. I know I'm challenging here, okay? So you can talk to me later on. And then you look at your tool. So as opposed to just reaching for the tool, which we all do, the 5S, we need a principle that the tool's linked to, and we need the 5S captured in the system. Because the challenge is that if the behaviour isn't right, you need to go back into your systems, you need to look at the principle that you operate, and you need to adjust your tools and techniques. Because you may apply value stream incorrectly and not get the behaviour, and you're looking at the lean channel. So that's just a simple visual. Lean's all about visual management. You've got a core system, you've got a principle which is make value flow, and you've got your tool which is value stream management. Okay. Seems complicated, it's not. When you have it in practice and you have principles in your business, whether I'm a leader or an employee, and there's a dialogue goes on during the business, the principles keep us both right. So if you're talking to me about make value flow, there's no ambiguity. Both of us agree that make value flow is the right thing to do. Okay? And we use value stream mapping from an objective perspective and a structure perspective. We use value stream mapping to drive that. Okay? And I've seen that successfully. Okay, just pushing on last back end of the slides. In terms of Vfecto, we stay away from that complicated plan, do, check, act, left to right. We have seen this work with employees. Okay, it's a simple visual, it's a standard Venn diagram. We've got 3 systems shown there. Tools, which is your operating system, ways of working, which is your cultural system, and then strategy execution, which is around your management system. If they operate in isolation, you will not sustain the gains. When you do anything with change, i.e. tools at the top, you have to think about the cultural aspects, your ways of working in the business, and then you have to think about the policy and the objectives. So it's an integrated approach. It's not easy at the start, it takes time and practice, as does all disciplines, whether you do sport or whatever. It takes time, but that is a lean roadmap. What I was saying there is typically they're isolated at the start. You can see on the left hand side, the systems are isolated. So your HR person's off doing cultural stuff. Your business manager, production manager, whatever's off doing operating stuff. And the senior team are off doing policy and strategy. And they're all doing this wonderful stuff, but it doesn't connect and it doesn't drive value. We integrate that for success. Okay. So what have we found from a Vfecto, from my own experience? Businesses who are excellent businesses have 3 things in common. Okay? They have people who talk about relationships between tools, principles and systems. And that takes practice and practice. They use measures not only for key performance indicators, which you're all probably familiar with, but also key behaviour indicators. So for example, a lean tool would be waste walks. You measure the number of waste walks that a leader does. That's a key behaviour indicator. If they follow that, then they will drive results. Practice drives results. And then finally, their leadership. We talk about management, we talk about leadership. We need leaders who challenge. If you're the type of person who hides in the corner, is not prepared to challenge your people, don't go after this stuff. This is a contact sport. You will have to challenge, you need leaders to do that. If you're doing all 3, then you will drive forward to a lean roadmap. And then just finally there, not looking to insult anybody, but Vfecto, we have an assessment process. Ideally, I want to be the guy on the right hand side there. He's got his shades on, future looks bright, he's got his sandals on, because the systems are working, the behaviour is right, okay? The tools are right. Okay? Whereas maybe starting off a journey, not an insult, you may be cherry picking where you're applying your tools, and really you need a coordinated approach. And then finally, if you want to know more about this, come and visit us at Stand. Thank you for listening.